salute to the flag and remain standing for a moment.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this public meeting has been delivered to the Star Ledger and Home News Tribune newspapers and posted on the Middlesex County website, as well as the Community Bulletin Board of the Middlesex County Administration Building at least 48 hours in advance of this meeting. Madam Secretary, we have roll call.
Jason Friesen,
Here.
Commissioner Director Ronald Rodriguez,
Here.
Commissioner Charles
Here.
Lee, Amal Patel,
Here.
George Fallett,
Here.
Michael Kulatowski,
Here.
Shakru Jovinda,
Here.
Saket Chalavanda,
Here.
alternate Deolala. Here. The alternates are eligible to vote today, Mr. Chairman, if you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this point, the meeting is open for public discussion on agenda items only. Any member of the public wishing to address the body on agenda items only, the meeting is now open. Please approach the podium. No one, then a motion would be in order.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and second to close the public portion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public portion is closed. Meeting minutes from January 14th, 2025 are up for approval. They've been distributed. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
Moved and second to approve the minutes of the planning board from January 14th, 2025. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll be present, not voting.
Present, not voting also.
Thank you very much. Motion carries. Correspondence, we have none. Planning Director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two items. First is just to confirm the Planning Board in Middlesex County will be playing a role in reviewing the preliminary New Jersey State Development and Redevelopment Plan. The county commissioners adopted a resolution stating the county's participation at its meeting last week. They call it the state plan, it's abbreviated. It's been considered a blueprint for growth and preservation. You might have heard about it. It was last presented probably almost 20 years ago. It's been presented as a statutory requirement. Municipalities and counties have the option to participate, but they are encouraged to. The benefits, while I don't think have been as clear as they could be by the State Planning Commission, are the incentives that the alignment of plans and policies with the state plan could provide. Just as an example, if a municipality's master plans and ordinances were aligned with the state plan, perhaps they might receive preferential treatment or priority in funding grant applications. Something along that lines, and certainly we need to get a better idea of what are the benefits of not only participating in state plan review, but aligning our plans and policies with those of the state plan. I think the county's position really is that we don't want to lose the opportunity to help shape the plan, but to make sure that the plan reflects values of the county and the county's municipalities, which is really important. So we'll have a presentation for you next month on the state plan and give you a sense of how you might be involved, and we'll be reaching out to municipalities, and it pretty much will be our kickoff directly after not at that meeting, but towards the end of March. So you'll learn more about that. I just want to give you a brief update, and then you'll hear more very soon. The second item, I'd actually like to move to the end of the agenda so that we get going with the presentation. Mary Kimball is here with her team. She's from Arcadis. They're an environmental consultant who took the lead on Resilient New Jersey for Raritan Bay communities, working on coastal and tidally influenced communities and helping protect themselves from floodwaters and climate change and all that good stuff, and you've been working on it for a few years now. So, but instead of me stumbling over words, you come to the mic and you take over. So this is Mary Kimball.
All right, thank you for that introduction. So yeah, here to give you an update on the Resilient New Jersey program. We've been working back to the 2020-2021 with the county planning team on this program. It's a state program through NJ Department of Environmental Protection. They're actually doing this program in 4 different regions. So Middlesex County is one of those regions. And it's to develop a regional resilience action plan for the coastal areas of the county. It's a study area shown on this map, basically from the coast, from Carteret down to Old Bridge. It includes communities up the Raritan River, South River, and Sayreville as well. So we've been working on this initiative and working with municipalities as well as a consortium of YMCAs led by the Raritan Bay YMCA. And here to give an update on what we've been up to. We'll talk through an overview, talk about the current phase of this project, which is really focused on implementing the action plan, and then we'll talk about our next steps. I mentioned Mary Kimball from Arcadis, I'm the project manager, and I'm also joined here by Nikki Mitch, a resilience planner on our team, who will talk through it as well. So the program, as I mentioned, was statewide by NJDEP. We've been meeting quite regularly during the planning phase. We were meeting every other week. It's moved to monthly over the last year. We're meeting regularly with representatives from NJDEP, the county, municipalities, and the YMCA. And the focus of the program is really to identify actions at different scales to reduce the risks from flooding, but also other climate hazards like extreme heat, to increase the communities and the region's resilience to those hazards. So we're generally providing technical assistance as well as coordinating the program across these stakeholders towards developing the plan and now towards implementing the plan. And the plan includes really hundreds of recommendations. Some of them are really for everyday people and residents of the region and what they can do to make themselves and their families and their homes and businesses more resilient. Also recommended actions to state agencies, the county, municipalities, and federal agencies. And we've also been doing a lot of engagement with community organizations and other NGOs to really kind of identify ways and projects and programs that they can be doing to advance resilience for the region. This is the mission statement which has guided the program. One of the elements is that we've taken a very watershed-based approach. We know that water flooding doesn't necessarily respect municipal boundaries, and so we really need to take a more regional watershed scale look at both understanding risk and also identifying actions to reduce risk. And also, while we're focused around risk reduction and resilience, we're also thinking about environmental issues and how do the actions that we recommend create other environmental benefits as well as other social and economic benefits. And throughout, really sort of focused on using always the best available data when it comes to flooding and climate change, and also doing a fair amount of community engagement as part of this. So the process, we developed the Regional Resilience Action Plan and released that in fall of 2022, and then have been working since then on implementing the plan. I'll actually turn it over to Nikki to talk more about the process and about some of the implementation actions.
Great, thank you everyone. As Mary said, we began with focus on understanding the risk using the data that the state had as well as some data that we worked with them to develop in terms of flood risk modeling. And then grounded that in an understanding of shared priorities and really elevating what these communities wanted to see. And based off those conversations and analyses, we developed scenarios. You actually can see those ultimately in the cover of the action plan on the right side of the screen, which was protect, restore, and transition. Those were 3 separate approaches to how the region could adapt to climate change. And as we refined all 3 of those, they ended up merging together into a hybrid scenario that we call the preferred scenario based off stakeholder feedback. And that ultimately is reflected in the action plan, which is several hundred pages, pretty intense, and has pretty specific actions highlighting communities and potential lead entities towards implementation. And as Mary said, since 2023, we've been focusing on working to implement those recommendations. Those recommendations fall into 3 categories, the first of which is policy, and governance. And these strategies help the region transition by facilitating coordination and alignment with state policies and regulations. So just as a general overview, we provided recommendations for policy changes at the local, state, federal level, drafted proposed regulatory changes, including at the local level, and reviewed recommendations at the local level. And I can just highlight 3 examples of what that looked like. In Old Bridge, we're actually working actively still on facilitating some resilient redevelopment guidelines in partnership with their planning folks for the Lawrence Harbor section of town. And if you're familiar with that section, you know it's actually less flood prone, which is part of why it was identified in the action plan as a good focus for future development and creating these design guidelines to ensure that development that happens there is resilient. And then, as I'm sure you're familiar, the state has been coming out with a variety of new regulations and guidance regarding climate change, and so just helping to translate those into locally relevant recommendations and helping the communities understand what they need to do to ensure they're in alignment and implementing best practices on that front. And you all are probably familiar with the Blue Acres program, which is a buyout program for flood-prone properties facilitated by the state. Many of the communities in this region have taken advantage of that support. And as kind of a pilot example project, we worked with South River to envision how they could reuse some of those properties to create a community asset. And happy to share out more on that if you all are interested. I'm really excited about what we put together there. The second recommendation area was physical and nature-based infrastructure. That's a bit of the sort of flood wall and large infrastructure projects like you might imagine, though it really ranges from much smaller scale implementation all the way up to larger projects. These were things like green infrastructure and stormwater conveyance and storage, understanding transportation routes and assets that were at risk, critical facilities that really needed to be protected, and supporting grant applications to fund any capital projects that were of interest from the client municipalities. Just a few examples of those. We supported the county in the continued CRS MS4 Assist user group that helps the communities implement best practices and gain some benefits from flood insurance. The National Flood Insurance Program related to reducing flood risk. We worked with Perth Amboy actually on understanding how they can advance some of their advanced recommendations to improve their stormwater management in line with their long-term control plan. And finally, we worked with Saraville on some grant applications to flood-proof some critical facilities, and actually also a successful grant application for a nature-based solution called the South River Ecosystem Restoration Project, which is advancing as well. And then the last area was outreach, education, and capacity building, and that really highlights, in line with an NJDEP goal, the importance of building community buy-in and understanding of the risks that we face, and really viewing outreach and education not just as something that happens in the planning phase, but also something that can build resilience for communities more broadly as residents feel empowered to take action. And as Mary said, the coalition of Ys led by the Raritan Bay YMCA and Perth Amboy was our key community NGO here, NGO partner here, and we worked with them to host 2 workshops, one for adults in partnership with the Perth Amboy Office of Emergency Management on flood awareness, and then actually one for children as well in Perth Amboy at the middle school over the summer. We also worked with the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions to host a webinar series for communities across the county as well as across the state that focused on opportunities for local action on climate change. And that ranged both on the sort of the first 2 recommendation side of things, as well as the outreach, education, capacity building side of things, with an emphasis on risk communication. And then finally, responding to a need that Woodbridge had identified for sort of easier to communicate materials on what needs to happen for their green infrastructure, rain garden maintenance. We worked with them to develop a manual that they could share out with volunteers, staff across departments, and things like that. Finally, just sort of a look ahead, we've been working hard to implement and facilitate in partnership with the municipalities implementation of these recommendations for about the last year and a half. But that's coming to an end soon, so Arcadis's involvement only extends through March 31st. So we're really, working hard to ensure we provide as much technical assistance and support as we can through that time to municipalities, and then in partnership with the municipalities, the county planning, and the state, ensure we have a good plan for understanding how these efforts will continue to advance moving forward and really setting the municipalities up for success. So I'll go ahead and pause there, but I know Mary and I are both excited to answer any questions you all might have and hear your thoughts. So thank you so much.
I think it's a great presentation, and it's something that we have to be concerned about. One of our problems, I think, is seeking grant money, right? That's always the challenge, and especially, I would think, more so for the municipalities versus the county. And that's the only concern that, that I have. And as you stated in your presentation, we have to work on grant funding from the feds and the state. I think the biggest, let's say, challenge would be from the feds versus the state. Am I right in that assumption?
Yeah, and I think things are evolving as we speak a lot on this landscape too. But definitely a lot of the work that we've been doing is really like tracking federal and state funding opportunities, and then pairing those opportunities with recommendations from the plan. And then when municipalities are interested in pursuing them, we've actually written grant applications from them for them. So that's where we we're able to get funding from NOAA for the South River Restoration Project. There's another NOAA funding opportunity that is open. That I think we may submit again for Sarah to get some additional funding for that project. So there definitely are sources out there, but I think it's just about kind of thinking creatively and also trying to find the sources that really align with the goals and priorities of those projects.
Other questions from the board?
So I have a question. So when we're doing development review, I feel like we get. The thing that's really a problem for us is these smaller applications that don't meet the mitigation requirements for stormwater, like under a quarter acre of impervious, less than an acre of disturbance, and they're not required to do any kind of stormwater mitigation, right? So we get a lot of these in Middlesex County, New Jersey. So I'm just wondering, I know some towns have implemented more strict regulations in terms of stormwater mitigation. I think Princeton, I think they dropped their threshold to 5,000 square feet or something. I know in Maryland, where I worked, it was 5,000 square feet. You had to do stormwater mitigation. Is that something you're seeing in the state? Is that something we should be looking at?
Yeah.
What do you think?
It is something that we've talked to some municipalities about. I think we've definitely heard the feedback that from the municipality perspective, I'm curious what it is from the county too, that they want to kind of see those higher standards coming at the state level. It's sort of easier for them to implement what the state already requires. But it is something that we looked at, and I think in the action plan we do have kind of a list of potential improvements and additional ways that municipalities could make their codes higher than the state standard and the model ordinances. So it's definitely something that we've looked at, and I think could be an area of involvement through the MS4 user group to continue to provide that technical assistance.
Do you see, are there specific things that you see municipalities looking at for doing mitigation that's less than what the state requires, let's say the DEP requires?
More stringent than
Yes.
sorts? Yeah, I think lowering the standards to what that applies. There's also I think we had made a recommendation around sewer connection permits are another thing that municipalities could do, another kind of way to get into standards. But yeah, we could follow up. Those are off the top of my head what comes up. We could follow up with what's in the plan on that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board?
Just in regards to the rain gardens, I know Woodbridge has installed a lot of them. In that manual that you're talking about, is there something there to help with maintaining rain gardens for if they do get volunteer organizations that want to go out and clean up the rain garden, they have something to look at to know what to do?
Yeah, exactly. That's actually exactly what the manual was intended for. They had expressed that was a problem, that these rain gardens weren't operating at their maximum capacity because they were having trouble educating folks who were willing to do the work. And so it was exactly intended for that, whether that's staff or volunteers, and it highlights which species of plants should be there, which shouldn't be there, and key areas to look for, and We looked at, I believe it was 3 specific rain gardens and like outlined sort of the plot plan of them and how they should be maintained. So yeah.
Thank you, because they look great when they're there and, you know, they're installed, but maintaining them seems to become the issue, so that'll be very helpful.
Look.
Future storm surge and, say, extreme precipitation events could have catastrophic consequences and have in the past in this area of Raritan Bay and throughout the county. And I know in your action plan, you do have some maps, and you did do a vulnerability assessment. I think it's a high-level assessment. It's a little bit difficult to see the details in the maps. Do you have is there a website that you would refer people to where they can actually drill down and see a little bit more details about future projections of storm surge?
Yeah, there's the New Jersey Flood Mapper, njfloodmapper.com. That it's not the same modeling that we use, but depending on the purposes, that's like a really great user-friendly. You know, you can like zoom in and out, add different layers, look at different scenarios, different time periods.
Okay.
So that's like a good like public resource, and we can definitely also provide like the GIS layers for you all to have too.
Right, great. And I'm also asking this for the board members too, is because you can actually go into Flood Mapper, right, and you can put in an address actually, and you can pull it up, and you can see quite a few scenarios, right? Storm surge, or 1% storm, or projections for FEMA flood hazard areas, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I gotta get planning.
Yeah.
Right, it's,
Yeah,
thank you.
they have also the new state standards and CAFE standards of unadjusted flood elevation. Those are also on that map too.
Great,
And they have number 1, so it's all on there. It's a good resource.
great, Flood Mapper, great, thank you.
One more question, Chairman.
Please, by all means.
When it comes to the grant writing, I know you said the funding runs out the end of March. That's when you're online till. If people apply for the grants, is the administrative cost of writing the grant part of the grant? Will they get back that cost if they're awarded the grant, I guess is the question.
Yeah, so we've been doing like the grant writing for like other funding programs, you know, so like even after our funding is over, you know, they should be able to get those grants from the other funding sources to continue the projects. And it kind of depends on the grant, you know, often you can, if you're successful on the grant, like for BRIC program, FEMA's BRIC program, administrative costs, like the cost of writing the grant is reimbursable if you get the grant as well. But we're trying to do a lot of it for them now, so hopefully that's not something to worry about.
Other questions for Arcadis?
I just have a quick,
Please.
it's more a two-part. Hello again. I just want to also thank you for the support that you've given to municipalities. So I got to see this from the lens of working with Perth Amboy. And it was really exciting to see applications come together. So I think the staff augmentation and adding capacity building was a game changer in the process. But my question is, do you think the data, the mapping, and the case studies will be hosted continuously on the Resilient NJDEP website, or is there more so a county? Am I preempting?
I think we're talking through options now. Like, we'll definitely make sure that they're available somewhere. You know, either the states, you know, maybe the county. If not, like, you know, Arcadis.com could find a way to host it too. So we'll make sure it stays there somewhere.
Yeah, especially for the grant project success, as we find out
Yeah.
who are the recipients. That'd be great.
We hope to host them, I don't want to make too many commitments right now, but we hope to host them, yeah.
Any other questions for Arcadis? I wonder if you'd expand a little bit on the types of projects that your policy recommendations stimulate. I heard rain gardens. Is there anything chunkier or beefier?
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have recommendations in the plan around sort of like larger scale regional like coastal flood protection. Those are probably the most expensive recommendations, and you know are probably something that would make sense to be implemented in partnership with like the Army Corps of Engineers. But there are Army Corps projects in the region, and you know there's the ongoing studies, and so I think the sort of the biggest picture, biggest infrastructure projects are kind of you know part of those kind of suite of projects. We also recommend other types of like green infrastructure on the stormwater side, or other types of like stormwater storage, Others was more like sort of like for transportation-related projects that could maybe have like a resiliency element too. Yeah, lots of different things.
And elevating critical infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
Out of harm's way. And that's what you have 2 municipalities that are funding for that, right?
Yeah, yes, Airville and then Woodford's been pursuing that. So yeah, a lot of recommendations around identifying like, publicly owned assets that are in the floodplain. And then I think, those are really great candidates for federal funding applications in terms of, BRIC program or other programs to elevate those properties or flood proof them.
Last question for me at least, and maybe in part for our own staff, is there a spreadsheet somewhere where we're tracking stormwater events, torrential rain events, flooding events that happen in Middlesex County municipalities? Like, do we have a history of knowing what's happened?
I think the OEM has a pretty good record keeping, through the hazard mitigation plan, has a really good historic record of everything. So as that plan gets updated, it'll get updated with historic events. And there's a little bit of that in the plan too. The modeling that we did is actually based off of Sandy plus sea level rise or Ida plus increased rainfall.
Anything else for our case? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're still with the planning director's report.
Actually, I'd like to continue that later. Let's move on to B, the proposed policy resolution.
Okay. In your packet is proposed resolution 2025-05, sanitary sewer force main. I believe our Secretary Pro Tem is going to read the resolution.
Resolution 2505, whereas Middlesex County Planning Board vests its power to review site plans and subdivisions to a development review committee, as created by the site plan and subdivision resolutions in accordance with NJSA 40:27-6.8, and whereas the development review committee reviews site plan and subdivision applications that occasionally include sanitary sewer force mains. The county permits force mains within its right-of-way, but it is not responsible for construction, operation, or maintenance. And whereas a break in a force main can pose an immediate public health and safety problem, and whereas the county requires a reliable, permanent emergency contact in the event of a force main break to alert them of the situation. And whereas the requirement of force main responsibilities are outlined in a multi-party utility requirement required by the Development Review Committee, and whereas the following policy identifies the proper responsibilities to protect the safety of the public.
Linda, do you want me to comment on that?
Sure, you can start.
So the issue really here is force mains are typically not maintained. They kind of fall in this category where they're privately maintained. We really need those to be publicly maintained preferably by a municipality, by an entity that does not go away. Okay, so because if we have these force mains and there's no accountability, developers go, they change, they go under, whatever, they're no longer in business. We have nobody to go to in terms of if we have if there's a repair that has to be made to the force main. So this resolution gives us the ability to assign that force main to a public entity. Municipalities have sewer authorities, and we would want to have if a developer comes in, we want to make sure that gets assigned to a public entity that's going to be responsible. Now, the public entity can in turn, they can pass those costs, maintenance costs on to the developer, but ultimately it's the municipality that really needs to be responsible for those. They're covered under the Board of Public Utilities. They're regulated by that. So that's really, I feel that's really important for the county I think this resolution is very important for the county from an engineering public works perspective.
And we have had several applications, well, over the last, I would guess, 5 years, that included force mains. And a couple of them were applications where they were privately owned, And we had asked the municipality to play a role, and they said no. And it was difficult because the county, we're talking about the county road, right? So these are force mains in the county road. If there's a break or something, many people, agencies will call the county first. Hey, it's your road, right? So we need somebody to call in the case of an emergency. We need, as George was saying, we need somebody there 24/7 that's reliable, that's not a private owner that might change hands or whatever. So at a minimum, we want the municipality to serve as that primary contact. And that's what this resolution is about. What George said is they can assign the maintenance and operations to a private business, but they still must remain in perpetuity as the primary contact. I was going to say something else, but yeah.
We've been doing that in one fashion or another for a while, and we've recently had some pushback, which we've worked through. And the reason that we want to have a policy is so we can have a policy to fall back on, as opposed to it's just a practice to require this agreement.
Exactly.
So now we have the force of the board has developed an actual policy on it. In the event we got a real legal challenge, I think we've worked them all out. But we have one now. We have an application now with Force Main somewhere in the south part of the county. I don't think that's an issue though. I actually talked to the lawyer. I don't think it's an issue.
Right, and thanks for
That's the
adding
reason.
that. That's why we're doing it.
That's the reason that we're doing it, is so that we have the force of the policy adopted by the board behind what we're doing.
And what I was going to say is that ideally this will eventually end up in the land development standards, but we don't want to. Land development standards are adopted by the commissioners, so it's not something that can be easily done piecemeal. So the first step is to get it a policy that's adopted by the board, and so that it like Steve said, it's something that's on the books, leaves a paper trail, and it has predictability, transparency. This is our policy, and we give it to the developers so they know up front. So I don't. Katie, did you want to add anything to that?
Just a question, such a quick question. Do we know how other counties are dealing with this thing, because obviously enforcement is a big issue? And
Great question.
So when I was in Mercer County, when I was county engineer there, we did not permit private force mains within the county right away, period. And I'm also on the New Jersey Association of Counties. None of the counties this is a similar situation in other counties as well. None of them favor private utilities within the county right away, or none of them.
so they have it in the bylaws, or they have it in their some kind of a policy?
No, the only thing we really have to fall back on is the Board of Public Utilities. They operate under the Board of Public Utilities, but because it's a private utility, it doesn't necessarily fall within it's very questionable, and that's been an issue we've been dealing with. But certainly to answer your first question about other counties, yes, they have if not policies, they have standards in place that do not allow that.
And we are trying to formulate a policy here, right? And this is the first step in order for us to go to the policy, to have a resolution. And
This is the policy. This will serve as the policy.
We've been requiring, correct me if I'm wrong, we've been discouraging force mains and county roads to begin with, but there's sometimes the geography of the land requires, I think we had one where like the turnpike was in the way, the force main was needed, otherwise you couldn't really connect. So I think the first step is to try and not have a force main on our property when possible. But sometimes you can't. And so we've been requiring this arrangement for several years now with success. But there'll be a time where someone's going to challenge it legally. Do we have the authority to do it? So that's the reason that we're putting it on paper, to make sure if we're challenged that we're on the strongest possible footing we can be.
good.
So you said that the municipalities will now be able to, will be able to pass that cost on to the developer.
Responsibility.
And currently? And what's now, what is currently going on now?
Well, currently, most of the agreements require the municipality, but we've got pushback from the last couple of municipalities of that they do want to sign on to those agreements. I'm trying to remember, there was the one, the Amazon warehouse. I can't recall, it was one, I know it was one in Piscataway off of River Road.
No.
No,
So
it
it's
wasn't
not
Exeter,
retroactive
it was,
though.
it was,
It's not retroactive.
so, you know, the municipalities have not been wanting to sign on to that. So what we came up with was allowing them to delegate some certain costs and responsibilities as long as they were the point of contact. So the county engineer knows who he's going to go to. He's going to go to the municipal engineer who knows his community, who knows his town, knows who the property owners are. And they're going to be the one that's going to be responsible. In the field, how's it going to work in the field? You know, in a real emergency, you know, someone's going to have to stop that main, you know, flowing. That I can't tell you. But you know, this puts us in the best position to be able to enforce that. Again, if I'm wrong, you can tell me. We try not to allow them if possible. The idea would be to not have them.
Right, the idea would be to do everything you can to preclude needing a force main. If they need the force main, have it, you know, they can certainly put it in private property. I mean, they'd have to acquire easements and all that stuff.
Right.
But, you know, as a last resort, if it has to go in the county right away, you know, we want to have this protection measure in place. And I don't know, Steve, if the municipality has an agreement with the developer as far as maintenance. I assume they would. I would assume they have some kind of legal arrangement between the two parties that.
Right, we have an agreement, it runs with the land, whoever the property owner is. You know, so that we have, just as if, like we had when we were doing all those drainage basins and such. You know, we have a similar agreement.
And then if the developer sells the property, that
Runs with the land.
agreement goes with the land.
Correct.
And Linda had said something before, but it's moving forward, it's not looking back, it's moving forward as these come before us.
It's
Well,
not
we can do it
retroactive.
anyway,
It's not retroactive.
right, but we can't pass it.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make that point.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, please, more.
Just to add on to Steve's earlier point, about this has been our current practice, and it was most recently our current practice at this last DRC meeting that just happened a few minutes ago. You did just, the DRC did just approve another one on South Main Street in Cranberry, and that was file number 1888.
That's the one I spoke to their attorney. He was okay, the language for it.
Thank you. Other thoughts on force mains?
The lesson for today is they're not good.
Okay, so the item before us is Resolution 2025-05. I believe we need a roll call vote. If we're ready for a vote, are there any more comments, questions? Okay,
So do we need can I make a motion to approve the resolution?
please.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025-05 sanitary force mains.
Second. We moved and seconded to approve Resolution 2025-05. Madam Secretary.
Jason Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Director Ronald Rios.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Charles Kenny. Hamal Patel.
Yes.
George Fallon.
Yes.
Michael Kowalski.
Yes.
Sharif Jovita.
Yes.
Sakit Chalabata.
Yes.
Alternate Gayalala.
Yes.
That's 9 in favor, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, are we returning to the planning direction report or item C?
Item C, Development Review Committee report.
All right.
right, good afternoon, board members. My name is Katie Pinello from the Office of Planning. I'm going to briefly go over for you the January 2025 DRC report. You'd be able to find the report, I believe, on page 12 of your packets if you wish to follow along. Starting with Table 1, applicants on the monthly agenda, it shows there were 20 applications in January consisting of 1 minor subdivision, 9 site plans, and 10 extensions. Moving on to Table 2, development activities for approved and conditionally approved applications shows that there were 2 non-residential lots approved in Woodbridge, as well as 127 multifamily units in South Brunswick, and a combined 66,800 square feet of industrial space and 121,700 square feet of commercial space. Table 3 provides some highlights of development activity for January. The first is Nixon Medical in Edison, which proposes to reuse an existing warehouse as an industrial laundry. Second is Kitty Academy in Old Bridge, which proposes a child care facility. And third, Hampton News in South Brunswick, which proposes 127 residential units. And all of these applications were not on a county road. And then finally, Table 4 shows exempt site plans. There were 3 exempt site plans processed by staff in January. A billboard in South Brunswick, a commercial building in Piscataway, and a mixed-use building with 50 residential units in Denellen. Are there any questions?
Questions for development review? Just one real quick.
Oh, sure.
Have you seen any variation in the number of applications since the beginning of the year?
Well, typically this is a slower time of year. We'll see things pick up a lot more come spring, but just with the holidays and things, there's kind of a lighter agenda.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Motion will be in order to approve the report.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Been moved and second to approve the report from Development Review Committee, Principal Planner. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on, item D, staff reports.
There are none, so I can get back to my director's report. And just a side note, so when Katie wrote that report, she was principal planner. She's now supervising planner, so congratulations, Katie, to the Development Review Group. I don't have the agenda in front of me. Okay, so the last item. So I said before that I had 2 items on the agenda for my director's report. And the first one was cross-acceptance. The second item is an announcement. I'm retiring. And I'm retiring next month. This is going to be my last planning board meeting. And I wanted to share that with you. It's been in the works for a little bit. This was the first opportunity that I had to share it with you. The good news, this is awesome, is until a permanent director is hired, we're fortunate we have an interim director that previously worked in the planning office and works for the county right now. And that's Vijay Rajvanshi. He's here. But before I reintroduce Vijay to you, I just wanted to say a few words and tell you what a pleasure it's been to work with all of you. And I was particularly excited today to hear all the questions and the conversation. Sometimes we're a little quiet and we don't have the questions on the material. It was a good presentation. Thank you, Lori, for setting that up. But you have a busy year ahead of you. And we talked about last month about the projects last year, the accomplishments, and many of those carried over, Greenways Plan and Bike Ped Plan, and of course cross-acceptance. So you do have a busy plan a year ahead of you. I want to thank county leadership for giving me this opportunity to be planning director, Commissioner Director Rios, Commissioner Kenny, Khalid Enjam, the Transportation Department head, and of course the County Administrator John Palomina. It has been my pleasure serving in this role. It's really been fun. I had other remarks prepared, but it is getting late. It's probably one of our later meetings, so I'm just going to skip over that, and I think I'm going to turn this over to Vijay. Vijay Rajvanshi was the former director, deputy planning director, and now director of network operations He'll be serving as the interim planning director. He's already stepped in, and so BJ and our offices are very close together on the 5th floor. We're working side by side, sure a seamless transition in the management, and that's happening already. So this is just the ideal situation. So I leave you in great hands. So BJ, you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Linda. Good afternoon, respected planning board members. It is my honor to be stepping into the interim planning director role on Linda's retirement. I wish to thank Linda for the leadership that she's brought to the Office of Planning over the years. She's done some incredible work, including bringing much needed stability to the Office of Planning and also codifying some of the planning and development policies that this county is going to benefit from for the years to come. So thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Like Linda mentioned, members, I currently work as the director of the Network Operations Center for the county. My previous role with the county was the deputy planning director, where I worked my role was deeply involved with all functions of the planning office, and so that familiarity with Office of Planning is going to help me assist me in leading this office during this transition period. I thank you all. I look forward to working with you all in the next few weeks and months, and please feel free to reach out if you need anything or have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, BJ.
Did you want to say
If I may say something, Mr. Chairman?
Carl, do you want to say anything?
Thank you, Linda. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, members of the board, Planning Board. I want to just thank Linda for her tremendous contribution to bringing a very much needed stability to the office, and the diligence with which she has carried out her role and the manner in which the steps that she has laid for us to move forward is really going to move us in the right direction. I thank her and I wish her well in her retirement, good health, happiness, cheers. With VJ, we have a really solid individual that is going to step in. He's involved in the Network Operations Center, which is integrally tied to a lot of the critical functions of planning that involve traffic safety and Vision Zero and so many other things that we are doing. And I really must mention the incredible vision of the county commissioners for giving us the opportunity to make such a significant impact on the community at large by inducing and including the most advanced technology and the most innovative methods of reducing congestion, increasing safety, advancing resilience, and working on all of those elements within the county that makes this a great place to live. I think that the planning board and the planning office in Middlesex, under the leadership of the commissioners and of course this board, who does a tremendous job in actually adding to the quality of life of the residents of this great county. So I commend all of you for your service, and I thank the Commissioner Director and the Commissioner Kenny and all the other commissioners for everything that they have done to allow us to make that impact and a difference, which we're doing everything we can to do. And so thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me speak.
Commissioner Director.
I just want to say that Linda serving here for 4 years has been very thorough. I don't think she was thorough enough, seeing that the commissioners could veto this maybe. But all kidding aside, I just want to say Linda has been
superb in her role here. She really has been a professional. Sometimes I've asked her questions, and it's like she is the Wikipedia here in planning, because she doesn't even need to look something up at times, and she just knows the answer. She's certainly going to be missed. I wish you well, a long, healthy, happy retirement. And again, I want to say thank you for 4 short years, but with tremendous amount of knowledge and professionalism that you brought to the planning department and the planning board, that it's immeasurable. And again, I want to say thank you. VJ, congratulations. I'm sure we're in good hands, and I wish you well in your role as an interim planning director. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you, Chairman. When Linda came in, she came in with high recommendations from Solomon and Khalid and the group that brought her in. And then also outside of the county, I ran into people that knew Linda and had the same reaction, that great person, will do a fantastic job. And she has lived up to and exceeded those comments and impressions that people gave me through her time that she's been here. As you've heard here said, she has been able to bring a professionalism to the office, to bring a sense of community to the office that is something that is very important. She's done a great job. She's done a great job leading the planning department. Yes, Director, you are right. I was up in the office trying to talk her out of it, but it did not work. But we understand. But I wish you much success. I thank you for what you've done here, your time. Greatly appreciated. You are going to be missed. So enjoy retirement. It's something that once you get used to it, is very nice. I know. So I wish you much success. Good luck. You'll get the cheer for the Mets this year, and not have to worry about putting any reports in or anything like that. You'll be able to stay up late for the games. So congratulations. And we are, in our transition, we're in good hands with VJ, who is another outstanding person that we have in our Department of Transportation, who will do a great job. So thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other comments or questions on the planning director's report? Thank you so much, Linda. It's really been a pleasure working with you. I can't even believe it's been 4 years. It feels like it's been 5 minutes. So good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Other thoughts, questions? If not, a motion would be in order to accept the planning director's report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second to accept the final report from our planning director. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I believe now we are at public comments. Motion, the floor is open for anyone from the public.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Charlie Prattville. I'm a New Brunswick resident, editor of New Brunswick Today, community news outlet. Have our camera here to document today's meeting. It'll be available on the New Brunswick Today YouTube channel. And I want to be remiss if I didn't start by thanking Linda Weber for her service and wish you all the best. And congratulations and best wishes to the new interim director. I also really appreciated the great presentation today and say thank you to the folks who were responsible for that. I do think that one of the biggest planning disasters here in Middlesex County was the approval of the Woodbridge gas plant, a gas power plant right on the Raritan River waterfront. I think if we're trying to make our communities more resilient, we shouldn't be adding major sources of air pollution, adding infrastructure that will hasten the climate crisis and make it worse. And I feel the need to note that in light of the presentation today and the communities there that fortunately the community fought that. The county chose not to take a position, but we succeeded ultimately in stopping it. I think that's a good thing for everybody, and hopefully we don't make those mistakes again, and our county officials will lead on some of the biggest, most important planning issues like that. It was nice to see Governor Murphy in our city yesterday, and I also spotted Commissioner Rios and Mr. Dannemiller at the Getting to Zero conference. And I thought that was good to see, and this is a good place to have it. Unfortunately, Middlesex County continuing to lead in auto fatalities, especially along Route 1. We've already had a couple of fatal crashes this year. And to that point, I did want to follow up and ask about the Route 1 bridge, Route 1 North connecting New Brunswick and Edison. I know there's a major DOT project planned for it. I know the county is reviewing it, the last I heard. Can you share anything at all about the review or give an update on where we're at?
Thank you very much. Any updates or thoughts? Maybe we'll heard the question.
Yes, we do have some comments, and I'm not prepared to share them with you tonight, but we should be able to either next month, if not before. The county does have some recommendations. We want to make sure that the municipalities were on board with our recommendations as well. It took a little bit of time, and so we'll be able to report specifically on what those suggestions are. Okay?
Okay. Well, I did hear that you asked the DOT to make the pedestrian pathway wider, and I think that's a good thing. I hope that that is successful. And yeah, anything to make the road, the highway more accommodating to pedestrians.
Well, I mean, Mike is here, and he can go, actually, he can just touch on it if you want to, but I don't want to, it's already 10 after 4, I don't want to go into a big presentation on it, but some of them are, the comments are also, right, widening the sidewalk so it can serve as a multi-use path, right? But it's also extending sidewalks beyond the approaches to the bridges, so to create the networks of sidewalks, and also to increase the visibility of the crosswalks in the study area. So,
great. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one thing that I'm, disappointed that the DOT took down their website that would have had information for the public about it, because I don't know where the sidewalk starts, where the sidewalk ends, and I think that's, as you point out, valuable, critical information to have.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess I'll follow up on that. And just the last point I wanted to make is about recording the meetings. I think it's the best practice to record your meetings. And maybe I was misinformed before, but they are in fact recorded by the county. Is that correct? These meetings?
They've always been recorded.
They are. Okay. So yeah, I think that's
You obtained copies of them.
I did. That's how I found out. And so apparently they're recorded. I would just suggest respectfully that you publish the recordings so that I don't have to file an open request to get them. And that way anybody that wants to see what they missed could just click a button or two on the county website and be able to pull up those audio recordings. But I was mistaken. And yeah, they are being recorded. That's a good thing. Obviously, there's more that you can do in terms of maybe turning on the high-tech video equipment here to make a video recording and publish that like our county commissioners do for all their meetings. There's a lot of good stuff that happens here, a lot of important stuff that I think people would want to see. So just encourage transparency. It was alluded to. Transparency is important to the board. Well, let's put the meetings online, put them on video, and make them easier to access. And yeah, that's all I have for today. And congratulations on your retirement. Best wishes.
Thank you very much. Any other member of the public wishing to address the board this afternoon?
Motion to close the public portion.
Second. Been moved and seconded to close the public portion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. As we approach adjournment, I just want to again wish our planning director the best as she moves on. Keep our secretary, Michelle, in mind as she's out today, and thank you for Liliana for filling in so well. At this point, the next item is adjournment, and motions in order.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned.